Today's guest started as an intern for an agency, and over the next 3 decades, he helped bring CNN to Mexico and later built an internal agency for one of the biggest nutrition companies in the world. Today, he leads global operations at 121, a global agency with over 200 employees, managing teams across multiple countries.
The success of a team was not only about the talent or the processes. The real difference was alignment.
But what makes this story interesting isn't just the length of the career, it's the shift from working on creative campaigns to building the systems and teams behind them.
If you have discipline in order to follow timelines, I think that makes a lot of difference.
In this episode, we'll talk about leading teams across cultures, what changes when agencies scale globally, and how operations shape culture inside modern agencies. Gaspar, welcome to Agency Culture Conversations.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure for having you on this podcast. For our guests who are listening, would you mind telling us a little bit about your background going from an intern to now leading global operation for one of the largest agencies in the world? Can you tell us a bit more about your journey?
Yeah, sure. So for more than 30 years, I've worked in different advertising agencies, as you mentioned, marketing operations and creative environment across agencies. So early in my career, I believed that success was mainly about great ideas, and flawless execution. I was focused at first on delivering campaigns, meeting deadlines, and making clients were satisfied, right? But there was a moment that changed my perspective. I remember working on a complex international project where the strategy was solid, and the talent was there, and the timeline was realistic, but the project struggled. So not because the work was bad, because the teams involved interpreted things differently. So different expectations, different communication styles, different assumptions. So over time, I realized something deeper. The success of a team was not only about the talent or the processes. The real difference was alignment. How people work together, how they realize the things that are needed to be done, and beyond the individual roles. So I think that's my greatest learning in this journey.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for sharing the story with us. Now, I'm curious. So you started your career in agency as an intern and has eventually become working in client services. And now over time, you are leading teams and operation across global operation. At what point in time do you realize you're no longer, just an account executive person? Like, when did you feel that shift inside of you from hey, I want to move from an individual contributor to a leadership role?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for asking. So for the first part of my career, my value was more for execution, and problem solving. I was leading accounts, I was leading managing campaigns and coordinating work across different disciplines. But eventually my role changed, and I learned one of the hardest lessons for me is learning to stop solving every problem myself. So early in that transition, I remember feeling that if something wasn't moving fast enough, I should jump in it and fix it. No, so the intention was good, but the result was the opposite. People start depending on me instead of developing their own solutions. So that's when I understood something important for me, that leadership is not about being the hero of the story. It's about building a team that doesn't need a hero.
Yeah, and that's actually a very interesting point, actually. So delegation is a topic that most founders or even leaders are struggling with. Right? They think, hey, all these fires are coming in, I have to deal with them. So when it comes to delegation, how do you delegate the tasks to, the team that you are managing?
Yeah, sometimes I think it's better to analyze the capabilities of each one of your teams, so they don't feel uncomfortable if you delegate something that they are not capable to do. So they will stress, they will frustrate. So based on their capabilities, to start delegating, some topics that you can manage, but you have 24 hours on a day, right? So you don't have the opportunity to make everything at the same time. So you start delegating based on that, and to start learning. So I don't feel uncomfortable if they are willing to get my position, because I think you need to always learn from your leader.
Right. How do you make sure then that a task you are delegating to somebody, they have all of the ammunition to be successful at the task that you are delegating to the team member? How do you make sure you set everything up for their success and not just, hey, go do that?
I think based on their capabilities, you have the amount of time that you need to invest, because it's you have to invest time on that person in order to teach him how to do the things. No, and at first, like not giving, I don't know if it's in English that, but it's like not giving the fish so they can learn how to fish. I think that's the key part for that. And sometimes you have to spend a lot of time on it, but it has that awards at the end, no, because they will do it more quicker than the first time that they are learning to do it.
Right. Like you have to coach the team member how to do a certain thing. And that might take a little like longer time than just doing it yourself, right? Because self-leader, they're just like, hey, let me just do it real quick. It's going to take me, like maybe like 15 minutes, but they don't realize over time that compile and that time adds up. You've been working in agencies for a little bit over 30 years now. What have you been seeing that are like changing so drastically? The speed has changed so much, but like culture has changed you. So what feels most different today compared to when you first started?
Yeah, that's a lot of years in there, right? 30 years. So I remember when I started, agencies were built around the specializations and hierarchy. So creative, accounts, production, each discipline work in its own lane, right? Today, the environment is much more collaborative and cross-functional. The other thing that comes to my mind is speed. So campaign cycles used to be measured in months. Now they are measured in days or within hours. No, so I think the expectation for constant adaptation is more higher today. And now with the AI, has pushed us to make our process more efficient in order to fulfill our clients' need, our audience's need.
So interesting, actually. Well, let me ask you this. On the flip side, what hasn't changed in the agency culture, right? Even with all this new technology, new platforms, I'm sure some things still stay the same, right? So from your perspective, what parts of the agency culture has never really changed?
Yeah, because we were mentioning many things changed, the tools, the platforms, but I think I was thinking in two things that haven't changed. So first, the industry is still driven by people who love solving problems creatively. I think that's a key part. And the second one is agencies are still running on trust. Trust between clients and agency, and trust between colleagues working under pressure. I think, and one phrase came to my mind that I heard a couple of weeks ago, that it says technology changes how we work, but trust is still what makes the work possible. I read it here because I think that's a powerful phrase there. So for me, that two things are the ones that haven't changed. And today, I want to let you know that I'm surrounded by a team that I truly trust. And that trust, it's the key part for the having in your team, because it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Gaspar, I want to ask you a personal question. Has anybody ever broken your trust in the past?
Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone has some episodes like that. And when I start like an entrepreneurship now, I have that like distance, and now we are at the distance with that friend because we started a company together, but there was misalignments there, and our trust was not like well matched. So we decide to separate. But I think hopefully it was just few times, not a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what, Gaspar? Like, I think that happens a lot more often than you think, right? Like founders or even leaders, they have the trust broken by perhaps somebody in the past. Now they are leading the team, right? And they are not sure if they still want to have that trust in their team. So from your perspective, Gaspar, how after that incident, how do you, I guess, like trust your team now? Any sort of like things that changed in your mindset that allowed you to have that trust for your current team?
It's the confidence. I think the confidence and to be and the transparency. I think it's key on this because I want the team to let me know that they have time, they need time to rest, or they want to go with the boyfriend, or I want to be transparent. I want them to be transparent with me, so I can trust on them if I like assign a project for them. No, because that trust it's not only on the agency, on the work. It has to be around all your life. Because I don't know someone that it's not trusted within their personal life and it's trusted in the work. I think it's not that common.
Yeah, but let me ask you this then: how do you open that door for your team to trust you to be able to tell you all this stuff? Right? I think that's what a lot of like leaders are struggling with, like just having the team member be so open to them. Because a lot of people, they think work is just work. I'm not going to share, my personal life to you, right? So how do you enable that door to open for your team?
Yeah, the thing that I do is to have a constant communication with them and that also share the information that I have, even if it's from the management, to be clear, or of the objectives on how the mission of the company is, so they can feel comfortable with all the information in order to cascade to their teams also, and to bring information about not my personal life in detail, but just like if I have a problem, I have to be honest with them and let them know that I have a problem, because sometimes my response is not the adequate because I'm having problems. And sometimes it's difficult to separate your personal life with your working life. So I have to be honest, transparent. So honest and transparency for me are the key in each collaboration.
I love that. I don't think a lot of people understand that actually. Trust and communication is a two-way street, right? You want somebody to trust to communicate to you. You as a leader has to go out there and, communicate to the team as well. And I absolutely love what you just say. Yeah. Okay. I want to change the topic a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about your mindset. So you went from somebody who worked in client campaigns, and now you're running operations for one of the largest agencies in the world. There are a lot of people who are currently in that spot as well, where they are maybe working at an agency in some sort of creative role and they want to move up the career ladder. What changed in the way that you think? Like what changed when it comes to your mindset when you move into that role?
Yeah, so I think sometimes there are three differences that I come to my mind. So yeah, and it's one example, it's also on the internal agency that I work with. And I don't know if it's going to be the correct answer, but please let me know. So your clients are now your colleagues in an internal agency, and you must compete with external agencies. And the other part is you must balance corporate processes with creative speed. So for me, the hardest part was balancing corporate structure with the agility that the creative work requires. So let me share you a story. While leading the project management team inside the agency, the internal agency of Herbalife Nutrition, our group supported marketing and creative operations for 93 countries. So supporting 93 countries means that every project has layers of complexity, languages, local requirements, legal requirements, and different campaign timelines. Sometimes the same campaign, so the same concept need to be translated in different languages, no? So for example, a marketing message that works perfectly in North America, it may not work in Asia or in other projects. So our project management team had to become the operational experts, but also cultural translators. So that was my biggest challenge there, and to address the complexity of time zones, and regional understanding. So we developed two hubs, one in Bangalore, India, and the other one in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So the objective was not only the operational efficiency, it was cultural proximity by having people closer to the markets and better equipment to understand these market differences. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I actually want to learn a little bit more about that actually. So you started an internal agency at Herbalife, which is one of the largest nutrition company in the world, and you manage, let's say, almost 100 countries worldwide. What did that teach you about leadership, managing, like so many like teams across different parts of the world? Actually, what did that teach you?
Teach me to be like a lot of coordination, a lot of communication, and this part of integration between the teams. So I remember that on this cultural side that I was referring to, we have weekly sessions where the team like share this knowledge or cultural knowledge of their country, because I know that you have information around this, but sometimes there's like product or habits or some things that are spelling differently or that have another like a name, but it's the same within here, like having a rest, having a cup of coffee, but having here some time in order to gather and have a cup of coffee. It's having this time in order to get a little rest. It's the same habit, but it's cultural, it's a little bit different. So they share this knowledge within the weekly sessions because it's more like a people, not like having one there and the other part there. It was people like knowing that they have a lot of things in common. So that's the thing that I learned and that I push with the teams in order to have a lot of communication, transparency of the workflows, and the way that we manage the time zones, because we don't want people like to burn out because they are staying in calls at midnight and the other ones. So we establish a workflow like to have different teams in different time zones. No, so I think that was my biggest challenger and the way that it's succeeding, because when I arrived to that team, we were like 10 or 15 team members. And when I left that company, we were 45. And now I don't know if they are like 60 or 70, because that internal agency is constantly evolving.
10 to 45 across team
It
members
was 2
across the world.
years. It was 2 years when I arrived and when we developed this 45 team
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You've led teams, across Latin America, Asia, and other regions of the world as well. Of course, like work styles and just country cultures can be very different, but what surprised you the most about managing those cultural differences?
So I think the thing that surprised me the most was the difference are actually smaller than we imagine. No? So I remember one initiative that helped that it was this weekly session, and also these people like seeing each other as people. So I think that was clear for me, but the distance is not too much. And they were in India and Kuala Lumpur, but they have a lot of things in common. And I remember some part that it was key for me also. So I want to reward some Indian team member, no, but I have to congratulate him in front of all the team. But having my research of the cultural things of that country, I realized that they don't want to be rewarded in public. The punishment is in public, but not the reward. The reward is in private. So it's different that we in Latin America does. You like have some punishment. I don't know if it's the correct word for punishment, but you have some feedback for the team member on private, but also you have the option to reward him in public, and it's the other way around. So that was a big learning for me. So you have to get a deeper research on that cultural thing before managing different teams in different countries. I think that's my tip there.
That's so interesting. And you're right. I think in North and South America, when it comes to leadership, it's been taught praise in public, but criticize in private, right?
Yeah.
So that's actually very interesting. Now,
You say it better than me. Sorry, it was not, but you say it better than me.
yeah, no worries. And you know what? Let me ask you this, a very interesting question, actually, because a lot of agencies, not just agency, but companies in general, they outsource from like different parts of the world, right? And that's a very common thing. Have you ever seen a situation where maybe like a group of employees who are from the same country, they get together and they just always hang out, right? It's called like a clique. So have you ever seen, like people just get together and like, how do you, like tell your team to like, hey, like don't just hang out with the same group all the time. Like go talk to other people. Like how would you go about that?
Yeah, the thing that I do, and I think we have to become that example, no, for the team, is that we are having lunch in the company, in the actual company. So I never like sat in the same place and with the same team. So I think and it's an hour, no? So it's an hour that we share sometimes a little bit things of work, but the other times or the most of the time, it's more like the experiences. What do you do on the weekend? What is your next step? How is your daughter? So I think that's key. And I promote to my team to do the same, not to always sat with the same team and go after work with the same team, because I think that the relationships are more stronger when you promote them to be also after work. You don't have to be friends, no, but you have to promote a more trust relationship, because that will be reflected within your job. And I have a lot of examples there that some team members that were like not so close with me or some leaders of my team, that when we start having these conversations outside the work, we realized that we have a lot of things in common. And the relationship was so different in both sides, out of the company and within the company. So,
Like that. I like that. And I like what you say too. You don't have to be friends, but you just gotta trust each other. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. Like, what have you seen that are the same, right? Like, as you mentioned, like you found some similarities between you and someone else who are across the globe. Like, what are some of those examples that you've seen?
yeah, I think there are some habits that we have in common. So I realized that one of my team members is a musician. He's a drummer, and we realized that the themes or the artists that we follow are the same. So now think about all the knowledge that he has about that. So it complements my knowledge, because I don't have as much as him because I'm not an artist. But since he's an artist, has more like a deep understanding, and he loves that. So we realize that has that in common, and we start having sometimes like to listen music, and we share on Spotify and on the WhatsApp some songs. So I think that could be one, the habits, the family, that if you were living in some country and there are some friends there, that you can have common friends. So that's the kind of things that from my perspective, makes the relationship more stronger.
Yeah, I agree with you. Hobbies are the same everywhere in the world, right? There has to be one way or the other we can connect with one another outside of work.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this then. I kind of want to transition into the accountability topic, right? Because there's a lot of trust between you and the team member. But at the same time, you also want to make sure that the trust is earned, right? Like you need to make sure everybody in the team is doing what they're supposed to be doing. Have there ever been a situation where a team member is not completing the task and they just kind of broken your trust and they just are not performing in your team?
Yeah, the thing that I do, because I faced that a lot of things in my career, a lot of times, sorry, in my career. So have a discussion, and it has to be open and honest. So we have one exercise that it's clear there, and the way that it's structured, that exercise, it's like to build trust also on the team. like to point it out the things that are not working, but also to let that team member know the things that are working with him. So you start first with that, and it has to be 3, not more. 3 that are working and the 3 that are not working. And based on the ones that are not working, you set an action plan. No, but if you start with the things that she or he is good at, the perspective of the meeting went a little bit different. No, that if you start with the things that haven't been done or the things that haven't gone well, and also the perspective how that like behavior or that task that hasn't been completed, how is impacting the team and how is impacting the company and our results. So that's the way that I manage the kinds of situations. Also having this tool that guides me through the conversation. And I promote that to all my key leaders of the team to make it that with their teams.
Yeah, so it all goes back to communication and transparency. If someone's not doing well, you're just gonna tell them, hey, these are the things you're doing well. But at the same time, these are the things that you are not doing well. I love it.
Yeah. And I think also that alignment requires clarity. So people need to know exactly how decisions are made and who owns what. No, I think that's another key part because sometimes it's a misalignment there on the accountability, on the responsibilities, no? Or we are pushing more that their accountabilities. So we have to figure it out what is happening there. Sorry that I want to add that part too.
No, you know what? I want to ask you a personal question on that note. Does it ever feel difficult for you to bring up all this conversation to your team?
Yeah, and I prepare myself for the conversation. No, I'm a methodical guy, so I prepare myself for that conversation. And with this structure, I have to mentally like think on that in order to make that conversation. But it's difficult conversations, and there are many people out there like avoid that kind of conversation. No, but difficult conversation has to be like addressed because if not, you will face another kind of problems. So I always tell my team that if I know that there is something wrong or there's a warning on some project and I get informed and we like face that as a team, we can like put it and clean that, but if I realize late that there is something out there that it's not working, it will explode. I minimize the explosion, but it will explode. So I promote every time my team in order to get advice at the right moment. So the right question at the right moment is the right place. I think that's the thing that helps me a lot.
Yeah, and like a lot of leaders actually are afraid of having that difficult conversations. And you're spot on about the fact that you just have to be prepared before that conversations, right? For anyone who's listening and they may have a difficulty with a team member, somebody's not performing, and they are afraid to have that conversation with a team member. What other advice would you have for them?
I think the weekly sessions that you can have. I have one-to-one sessions weekly with each one of my leaders. I have 8 leaders. So it's a lot of time on my calendar, but it's an invest of time. I'm referring to that again because it's not only work on the one-to-one session. It's also how you're doing, how's your personal life. Even if they don't want to share, just only to know that everything is going well. Because if it's not going well, it will impact. Everyone says that I know I'm clever on separating things. No, it has impact. If you are not feeling well or if you have difficulties in your family, it will impact on your work. So if you start having that conversations and the team member knows that there's a personal part on that one-to-one sessions that they can feel comfortable on sharing, even if you don't get the details, but that something is happening there. So you have to be more near to that person. You have to ask him if he has all the tools in order to work. So I think that would be my advice. If you have one-to-one sessions with the team, not only focus on the project status. also focus on the person.
Yeah. And that's your job as the manager, as a leader. Right? You
Yeah.
just have to know what is going on in their life and have that difficult conversations with them if they're not doing well.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I want to transition to the next topic.
Mm-hmm.
So you've scaled a team from, I believe, 15 to almost 100 people within an internal agency too. What are some of the mistakes that you made during that time as you are scaling the team?
Yeah, so I think I'm thinking on three mistakes. But one thing that I observed over the years is that leadership approaches that work with a small team often stop working when the organization grows. So I think three common things I have faced or mistakes that I have challenges. I want to call it challenges that I that I have faced. It's keep informal structures too long. I think when the teams are small, communication is more informal and decisions happen quickly because everyone is close to the work. But as the team grows, the same informality creates confusion. People are no longer sure who owns and what decisions are made. So from my perspective, when the team grows, it requires to redesign the system or the process, not just adding people. So that I think that was one mistake. The other one that comes to my mind is trying to stay involved in everything. And I mentioned it early. So many leaders try to stay involved in every decision because they were successful that way early in their careers. And it's completely understandable. But as the team scales, that approach becomes a bottleneck. So I think that's the second mistake. And I was thinking on a third one, underestimating the importance of culture that we were talking about. So when companies work quickly, leaders focus on hiring and delivery and revenue, but if culture is not reinforced intentionally, during that growth, the team begins to fragment. So I think that three mistakes are the ones that are the three challenges that many leaders are facing and that I also face.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting thoughts, actually. So I want to talk a bit about protecting the culture when speed is the goal, right? Because I believe earlier you mentioned as well, like nowadays things are moving so quickly, right? Creative campaigns used to take months to create, but now it takes days or even hours, right? So agencies almost always focus on speed, right? But when you move fast, when you scale fast, it can create like pressure for the team. So how do you keep agency culture healthy in that kind of speedy environment?
You're saying completely right. Agencies naturally operate as a fast pace. No, so clients move quickly, companies evolve constantly, and teams need to respond rapidly. No, so the challenge is that that speed can easily turn into pressure if the organization is not structured properly. So one of my best practices is creating that systems that I mentioned, that process that bring clarity to the workflow. No, so my team understand how workflows goes or follows, though, so speed becomes manageable. So that's one thing. And the second one that I was thinking about is being careful not to create a culture where being constantly available, becomes the expectation. Because I think that's another thing that you can get into, no? And the third one, I think it's through small behaviors that make our culture visible. So leaders' communication, the recognition that we talk about, and how the team collaborates, I think that small behaviors also can make the difference.
Awesome. On that topic, actually, is there any key pillar, like any like cultural note that you are very strict on? Like, hey, this is something that we value. This is a core values, and if you don't have that, unfortunately, you're not a cultural fit for a team. Like, what are some of the things that you value in your team?
Yeah, for me, we have two core values that I think if you have those, the other ones can also like add on, right? So one, it's to be a warrior. A warrior is a person that is also willing to do more, but not like doing more. It's like going the extra mile, no, going the extra mile, and that promotes that to the team. So it's the wow factor, but it's warrior, no? And the other is discipline. So if you have discipline in order to follow processes, in order to follow timelines, I think that makes a lot of difference. And adding that too, you have a powerful team. There are no ones, there are no like this growth mindset, and there's a lot of other core values in there. The service one-to-one, like internal and for external. But I think that too are the ones that are more powerful from my perspective.
Awesome. Warrior and discipline. Wow. You've had anybody who doesn't have that?
Yeah, and we have some in the company. We have some awards about the person that has been the warrior of the month, and not only on my department, within all the company. So everyone knows that person has achieved that extra mile and has become a Roy, or that has become a warrior from the client, because we have received warrior from the clients. Not only saying thank you, because I think that's our job, but thank you, you saved me. You saved my day. That's a warrior for me also.
Yeah. Have you ever spotted maybe a person who in your team that doesn't have that mindset? Like, how do you change that?
Yeah, and I think sometimes like the demanding of clients and the market change. So the one that has been warrior because he delivers within time and manner, it's okay. And that was like all the things that need to be done, no? And that was correct at that time. But the demands right now, or the things that are needed, is to go to be more creative, to be more strategic. Some persons are difficult to achieve that because you are moving them to from their comfort zone. So they have to know about the value, no, that you are bringing to the company in order to make that shift, no, and also for your career. Because if you don't start adapting yourself now with AI tools and all that kind of things, no, it's like a wheel of the fortune. It moves so fast that if you don't move at the same pace, the wheel of fortune will throw you. So I think they have to know the value that it will come as a professionals in order to make that shift, and also for the company, because the company is willing, no, to help you do it. But if you don't do that, you will be replaced. That's a fact, because it's a business. So that's the thing that comes to my mind to respond to that question, Wesley.
And actually, I want to transition to the next topic, and it's about AI, because you mentioned AI. How do you use AI in your day-to-day nowadays? And I guess like where do you see that going into the agency operations?
Yeah, there are many conversations around AI. You know, that legal part and all that things that are moving, and daily they have new updates, new things in order to discover. So I think they are main focus on creativity, but operations is where AI can generate enormous efficiency, I think, no? Things like workflow coordination, documentation, and information retrieval can become much faster, but always keeping the human strategy and creative behind it. Because I think there's always a mix. You can operate more efficiency, and we have added some AI tools. We start exploring a lot, but we in this exploration, we determine which is the ones that has the most capabilities, and the ones that has the best match with our workflow. So we integrate that tools in order to make our process more efficient and to be more accurate. And now we are facing that if you don't get that knowledge to the tool, that I mean the strategic and the creative, the output, it's not going to be the one that you will need, or the one that you have. So now the AI tools is helping us to explore more creative territories, for example, to deliver within minutes, no hours or days. So I think that's the good part of it, but also keeping in mind that there's need to be a human input in there, no, or the criteria. of the human.
I think that's spot on. I think AI now they might have some lack in terms of creativities, and maybe in the future it will be better, but it really does help with operations. So on that note, now that AI is making the team more efficient, do you think your expectation for the team is increasing or it's higher than the pre-AI era?
Yeah, I think the client is asking us to deliver more quickly because we have that tools, no, or we need to have that tools. So, but we are willing to do more with less. I think that's the good part on it because they also need like to expand their budget or to make the most out of them. No, so we have the possibility in order to make more for them. So I was meaning like instead of having 3 territories in order to choose from, we have seen five explorations territories. So I think for them, it's also good to be part of this, and we can like make more deliverables also. And the automatization, I think the automatization, I mean, it's gonna be a different like game, no, in order to be automatized, sorry, but keeping in mind that you have to be like near to the audience, like getting all the knowledge of that audience and the input of the human, it's going to be key for that.
Yeah, and on that note as well, how do you manage the client expectation? So AI make things a lot quicker. We can roll out new campaigns a lot faster, right? But like, how do you set that expectation to the customers that like, yeah, we can do things quickly, but hold on, I need to protect my team as well. I need to make sure that my team is not burned out all the time. That even though we can be more efficient, it doesn't mean that every single day we can pump out like 25 different campaigns, for example.
Yeah, we all know that the output of the AI tools are not the final. So it's part of the process that we need, or we now have the possibility to make it more efficient, but there are the other parts that need to be done, and then we need to keep it the way it is. For example, the creatives need time to think. They need to have research. They need a lot of time in order to get these concepts to the table, to bring these concepts to the table. So that part, if that part is 2 hours, is today, we have to keep it because I think that's crucial. And later on the deployment or the rollout, we can make more efficiencies. Yes, but I think that's the key part for me. And provide the tools to the team and train them on using the tools in order to achieve that goal. Because if I have the expectations for them to work on that project within 2 hours, I need to provide also the tools and the training for them so they can achieve the 2 hours. So they will not, because if not, they will, as you were mentioning, they will burn out, they will get stressed, and the output is not going to be the one that we need to have. No, and we will have turn back and forth and that kind of things that we don't want to have.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I want to get your thoughts on something. So recently there is a company, I try not to mention that name. It's a very big company as well. And last year they were very profitable. And I believe a few weeks ago, they decided to lay off half of the team because the CEO was saying that, look, sooner or later, this will happen. Might as well make it happen now, right? So AI is making things more efficient, and it's thing you can kind of see, like layoffs are coming. So do you see that? Like, what's the view on that? What's the take on that in the agency world?
From my perspective, I think AI won't replace the team, but the team that doesn't use or the agency that are not incorporating these AI tools to their working process, it can be replaced. But there's always need to have this human input. So you have to be more specialized. Yeah, I think the AI is pushing us to be more specialized, though, because you have a lot of things right now and need so quickly to gather information and be more informed. But I think that's the difference. The AI won't replace the jobs. They want the jobs that are not willing to use or are not taking advantage of the AI could be replaced. I think that's the two difference in there.
Yeah. So agency is such a headcount focus, people focus. Like we need people to operate for agencies, right?
Mhm.
But for software companies, it's a different story. Like you see, there might be a future where a software company, they might have one or two people, but it can scale up to like hundred of millions ARR companies, right? Do you see in the future people is going to start switching jobs from working at like tech companies into the agency worlds because this is where the demands of needing the people are?
Yeah, I think there could be that changes and eventually that will happen. But I'm seeing other trends and other plans that are coming back to the ones that it's natural, that it seems like it's AI, but I don't like it. So we have one client that it's a food company that he is telling us that even if it seems that it's real, he wants to keep like having production, photo production, video production of the real food, even if it is like real, right? But they are coming back. And there are so many brands that are coming back to the essence, no, when we don't have this AI tool. So I think there's a lot of room there in order to keep that human part within and to get like this advantage of the things that are out there that can help you be better yourself. I think that's the key part there.
Well, unfortunately, we are coming up to the end. And before we close the interview today or the episode today,
Yeah.
I like to ask every guest a very similar question each time. So if you had to restart today, right? Perhaps it's your career journey or whatever you are in your, your journey. And let's say you have to rebuild either an internal agency or like a new agency from scratch. What mistake would you refuse to repeat?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I will take some things that we have already discussed. So if I have to start again, I think the mistake I could avoid is assuming culture will take care of itself. So when we start the conversation, I share with you that early in my career, I believe culture was something organic. Now I know that it has to be designed intentionally. Before we end our conversation, I want to share with you and the others a powerful phrase that I always think about, and I have it written on here. It's cultural is the system you design for people to work together. I think for me, it's that. I think cultural part, it's key, and that's the mistakes that I want to avoid, not and in order to make it better, because I'm aiming to be also a global operations director. So that will be, for me, would be key in order for me to continue developing on my career, professional career, and also for the companies. The companies are more like global based, no? And you have different presences in different countries. And now that many of the works are remote, so you don't have to be on a place in order to work on a company or in a country. So I think that, Wesley.
Well, everyone, this is your guest, Gaspar, and this is the Agency Culture Conversation. Thank you, Gaspar, for being on the show.
No, thank you so much. My pleasure.